I'm Bong Lozada from Inquirer, and with me is James De Los Santos, national. You're still with the national team, right? Or no?
Actually, well, because of the issues that happened last year, yeah, like I'm trying to, I'm moving on. I've already moved on from what happened.
Do you have any more tournaments lined up? You had seven, right? And now you
Yes,
have.
yes, I have because currently I'm competing in the Adidas Karate World Open Series, and I also have the Sport Data the Tournament World Series. That one there is the most prestigious one because the number of ranking points that they give for this tournament is times four.
Mm.
So that's why I'm really preparing for this one.
When did you start competing online? Is it just right now during the pandemic, or did you plan this before the COVID-19 hit?
Well, actually, because well, ever since the pandemic started, we've been on lockdown since March, and then it so like when we were stuck in this pandemic, I just continued training just to stay healthy and fit, but then it still wasn't enough to motivate me because I was thinking to myself, what else am I doing this for? And then I saw one of my friends from the U.S. team. He competed in his first virtual tournament and he won. And it got me curious, like, okay, this virtual tournament, like, I was kind of curious about it. And then one of my teammates, he gave me an invitation to this one virtual tournament, the Palestine International Karate Cup. That was my first ever virtual tournament. So I decided to join it, and surprisingly, I won. And then it made me even more curious. I started thinking, are there any other virtual tournaments out there? And then so I researched online, and I found that Sport Data, the official tournament organizer for the World Karate Federation, they were organizing virtual tournaments since I think April. And then so I got curious. I went to their site and I saw a list of many tournaments to join. And then I decided to join on the second edition of the Data E-Tournament World Series that took place in May. And I won silver in that tournament. And then I found out there were more other of these virtual tournaments that also gave points for the virtual kata world ranking. So that's that's what made me start joining these tournaments. And so far, I've already competed in around 21, 22 tournaments already in a span of 5 months. Because I compete like more or less on a weekly basis.
How is it tiring? Is it hard competing every week, considering you have to train for this one, then after this you have another competition to train for?
Well, I'll be honest. Yes, competing on a weekly basis can be very, very tough because also I usually I get worn out usually at the end of the day. Like there are times where I joined like 3 tournaments in one day. So yes, I could admit that it can be a very tiring process, but being a national athlete for a little more than a decade, I've already gotten used to performing kata how many times in a day. So it's something that I'm not really new to.
Mm. You still have a long way to go before you reach Eduardo. Yeah, before you reach Eduardo. But how many tournaments will it take, do you think, for you to reach 7,000 plus points?
Okay, so yeah, Eduardo Garcia of Portugal, he's at 7,075 points as of now, and me, my points were updated, so now I have I think 5,115 points. So I'm gonna need around 1,000, not 1,900 points to reach him, but I think maybe like maybe five or six tournaments more, then I'll be able to catch up to him. And it's a long journey, but nothing's impossible as long as I really work hard and dedicate myself to my sport. As long as I keep competing, then I'll eventually reach number one.
How did you move on from that incident before the SEA Games happened?
Well, yeah, it's unfortunate was what happened last year, but that door already closed. It's already in the past, and another another one opened. And I can say that these virtual tournaments are the new opportunity, especially that we're still all in lockdown right now, like for everyone's safety. But yeah, virtual tournaments is basically the new normal for this year, and that's what's kept me productive. That's what's been keeping me occupied for the past 5 months. And yeah, like I can say that I've already moved on from what happened, because there's always better things to look forward to.
Do you feel karate needs a better push here in the Philippines? Because the Philippines has always enjoyed that martial arts background, especially striking.
Yeah, like, well, given that these I've been competing in these virtual tournaments lately, like I've already exposed karate, and I really believe that it should be given a push, like to become more exposed in the country. And these virtual tournaments is giving me that opportunity to help boost the image of karate in the country. I've encouraged the karate athletes here, especially in the country, to give virtual tournaments a try, because it also gives these karate practitioners to compete internationally. And you're just starting from home. You just have to register for a tournament, record your performance, and send it to the judges for evaluation.
Mm.
I mean, yeah, there are differences between the actual competition and the virtual competition, where in actual competition you perform once and the judges evaluate you on the spot. Whereas in virtual competition, the athlete is given the opportunity to have as many takes as they want. But on the other hand, the judges also have the opportunity to scrutinize your performance, meaning that they can rewind your video over and over again to look for every mistake that you make. So, yeah, I would say that, yeah, because I think people are still trying to grasp the concept or this new idea of virtual tournaments. But given the fact that this pandemic may last for a while, these virtual tournaments can be a way to keep you motivated. I mean, aside from training for health and safety purposes. So this is my way of promoting karate in the country.
So this is a better let's is it an easier way for new athletes to perform and compete internationally, because before you have more travel,
Hmm.
you have to qualify for a better spot, and now you can just register online and be an international athlete.
Yes, that's the opportunity also that these virtual tournaments give to many aspiring karateka here in the country. Like, it allows them, as I mentioned earlier, to compete internationally just from home. Because yes, as you also mentioned, that you know traveling is fun. Don't get me wrong. I mean,
Yeah.
like, I'll always treasure. Yeah, I'll always treasure my moments there, my memories in the national team when I traveled and went to see different places and represent my country. But then in traveling, sometimes you have to pay an arm or a leg to to go to these tournaments and travel internationally. But then for cost wise, this can be very helpful to a lot of karatecas here in the Philippines. Like, they can just compete internationally just from home. So that's as I mentioned earlier, that's one benefit that virtual tournaments can provide to a lot of karatecas here in the country. And just like also an actual competition, because I also believe that you can't become a better athlete just by purely training. You need competition, whether it's actual or whether it's virtual. Like, I'll admit that the tournaments that I've joined, I didn't win all of them. There were a lot of them where I lost in. And but I also look at it as a learning experience. Like, I already know what the strengths of my opponents are and what I have to do to improve myself. So that's the benefit of these tournaments. So helps you become a stronger athlete. It helps you observe not just your opponent, and it's also yourself. Like, it helps you evaluate yourself on how to become a better athlete.
Mm. How does your normal day start? When did you? What time do you train? What time do you end your training?
Well, since I compete on a weekly basis, because my virtual tournament venue, the MKKPI main dojo, it opens at 11 a.m. because it's located in Sunshine Plaza. That's the opening mall hour. So at 11 a.m. I would go there. I would warm up, do some of my basics, and then when I'm ready enough, I perform my kata as many times as I can until I feel ready to make that one take. But sometimes I do two takes in case there's a glitch on the video that I made. So yeah, I train and compete at the same time. So basically, like when I'm competing, I'm also training at the same time, and that's what I'm getting used to, and I'm also liking it when it comes to these virtual tournaments.
Mm. So when did you start practicing karate?
I started karate at around 2003. I was 13 years old back then. The reason why I started out because I was a victim of bullying
Mm.
in my younger years. So it was my uncle who suggested to my dad that I try out karate. But then in the beginning, I'll admit I didn't like karate in the beginning. It was just something that it was just like an activity that my dad just wanted me to take over the weekend. It even came to a point where I wanted to quit, but then when the Sea Games was hosted here back in 2005, my sensei told my dad, "Let James watch the Sea Games. Maybe he could learn something from there." And then I decided to watch. I even skipped school for it because I mean, it's, I mean, yeah, because it's not all the time that the Sea Games would be hosted here.
Mm.
So yeah, I skipped school and I watched the games, and then I saw the national team back then competing, and that's what made me realize that I love the sport, that I wanted to continue my training and play for the national team someday. And then with all the hard work and preparation, I made it to the team 5 years later. Like, yeah, starting from 2005, and that's what really even motivated me more to train harder for representing international tournaments.
So lastly, what are your plans after the pandemic? Hopefully this ends the soonest.
Well, I will still continue to train, and yeah, during the pandemic, I'll still continue to compete, and of course, I will also continue promoting karate, and I'm also doing side businesses as well, to also keep myself more occupied during this pandemic, because I'm the type of person who likes to do other tasks other than training for these virtual tournaments.
That's all the time that
Mhm.
I will take from you, James. So thank you very much and enjoy your day.
Thank you,
Thank you,
Sir
James.
Pong. I really appreciate this interview. Really an honor.